In politics, everything is about narrative. I'm going to show you why the Macrons defamation lawsuit against Candace Owens is actually a publicity stunt disguised as a lawsuit. Well, it's to some extent. I'm a lawyer, and I saw your comments from my last video about how Candace Owens will win against the French First Lady in Delaware. Well, many of you were kind of confused about the evidence and thinking that everything in the complaint is true. Legally, that's not how it works. So we're going to go through what a normal complaint would look like and why this one feels more like a press release than a legal document. A complaint is just that. Someone is complaining to the court that someone else did something illegal to them. Now, in the eyes of the court, a complaint is not evidence. What attorneys say is not evidence. Only the sworn testimony from witnesses or other exhibits like pictures, yada yada, that are admitted by the court are considered evidence. So at this stage, we have no evidence. A complaint is more like the beginning of a lawsuit. It kicks off whether or not the complaint and what's in it is actually true. Reading through the Macrons' complaint, there's a handful of reasons why I think this is written mainly for show. First off, why sue in the US? When I was in law school, we had a French legal scholar who was working as a professor because he was doing research in the US. And he got into a strong debate with us about why defamation laws in the US are so in favor of the speaker, as opposed to French law, which is more in favor of the person who's being defamed. See, in France, it turns out they care more about the person and individual dignity, where in the US, we care more about the exchange of ideas. It's just how our laws are written. So, for the most powerful couple in France to leave their home, where they have all their personal political advantages and all the legal advantages, and come to the US and sue Candace Owens? Yeah, right there, that's a tactical move meant to make headlines. The Macrons already sued the original journalists in France and won, the people who started this whole thing. The French courts here would have jurisdiction over Candace because her content is online and it's about French citizens. So why would they come to the US? The next reason we know this is for show is that the complaint spends a lot of time talking about things that are really irrelevant to the facts of the cause of action, the reasons for the lawsuit. Like a lot. For example, let's look at how they mention the relevant parties. In a normal complaint, attorneys would write the person's name, where they reside, and a small description of why they're related to the case. For example, plaintiff Emmanuel Macron is a French citizen and resides in France. He is the president of France and co-plaintiff's husband. Simple. But in the Macrons' complaint, they wrote this. Plaintiff Emmanuel Macron is a French citizen. President Macron has been the president of France since 2017. Okay. Prior to being elected, President Macron served as Minister of Economics, Industry and Digital Affairs, and Deputy Secretary General to the President. Why are they giving us this guy's full resume on here? I don't need to know his employment background, his favorite ice cream. I don't need it. It's not a dating profile, like seriously. Then we get into the factual allegations section. This section is where you're supposed to state the facts that would lead to proving legal liability. That's it. Every fact in here is supposed to fill in the gaps of what the legal claim requires. For example, in this case, I imagine something like this. On this date, Candace Owens published a video series entitled Becoming Brigitte to her website and her YouTube page. In that video, she made the following defamatory statements. And they just tell the facts that they are trying to prove in the lawsuit. That's it. But no, instead, they start at the very beginning with our young president, born in Amiens, France, to a physician and a neurologist. He was nurtured by his maternal grandmother. Wait, what is that? What is that at the top? What the hell is this? President Macron rose to power in France, embodying a modern, dynamic image of leadership that... Dude, did you place an ad in the middle of your lawsuit? Is this a campaign plug? Like, for real? People don't usually do this, okay? They don't add a pop-up outside like the numbered paragraphs. You're not even supposed to write anything outside the numbered paragraphs. Come on, you know this is for show. And going back to the whole day he was born thing, this lawsuit is not the time for the president's origin story, okay? This isn't Hollywood. Except it is. They also give Brigitte's origin story. She was born in the same town as the president. She was born to a family of chocolatiers. She found a golden ticket in one of the chocolates and she went into the factory. Wait. Guys, it's important to remember that the complaint is not evidence. It's what the plaintiffs say they can prove. That's it. That's the key here, because the next paragraph is them showing two photos of Brigitte, one when she was a baby and another from her wedding in 1974. Both photos are in black and white. And I looked into this. Yeah, I really went there. Back in the 70s, that was legit, okay? You would not do color photos for legitimate, formal photos. You would just do black and white. So it seems okay. And later in the lawsuit, they show an additional 3 photos of Brigitte when she was very, very young, and then they show a photo of her ID. And we'll talk about those in another video. The gist of it all is that they showed a handful of photos in this complaint when Brigitte was very little, and 2 when she was a bit older, okay? Candace's position is that they have no photos of Brigitte from her younger years because she was not a woman back then, and Candace will probably say these photos are photoshopped or maybe just not Brigitte, there may be somebody else. And this could mean really 2 things. Either the Macrons are baiting Candace to double down, and then when the lawsuit starts, they show a ton of photos of Brigitte through the years. Or this is really all they've got. Given that this complaint is their 15 minutes of spotlight on the issue, like I've established before, I'm kind of surprised they didn't show clearer photos of Brigitte from her first 30 years. This would have been the time to blow Candace completely out of the water and completely kill the story. Here are the photos. Boom, 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 boom. And all the news outlets are picking this up, and they would have seen all the hard proof right then and there. But they didn't do that. Now, does that mean it's all they've got? Or does that mean that's all we actually really need? Like, think of it this way. How many photos do we actually need to prove that Brigitte was a woman her whole life? I mean, do we need more photos? Like, is it 10, 15, 100? Or is Candace after blood? Literally. We'll talk more about that in another video about how Candace could totally lose this lawsuit if Brigitte does provide blood in the form of a blood test. But for now, let's get back to how this complaint was written with an audience in mind. Paragraphs 26 through 29 outline the love story between the president and the First Lady when Brigitte was a 39-year-old teacher of that 15-year-old boy and somehow ended up marrying him even though his parents tried to keep them apart. One thing that I thought was funny is how they say the relationship remained within the bounds of the law. Like, yeah, I was totally into this underage child who was probably still going through puberty, but I didn't break any laws. Yeah, that's not creepy. Then for the next couple of pages, they go more in depth into the president's resume, like his work history, his campaign, his slogans, and how Brigitte supported him and is, get this, I promise this is not made up, a quote, strong, independent woman. I kid you not, look in the complaint, it says it right here. Does any of that have to do with defamation in this lawsuit? No, it's about getting their story out to the public. This is like 60% PR and 40% law. But then that legal 40% hits, and it's pretty hefty. They spend a few pages tearing apart Candace Owens' career, okay, PR, and then they finally get to the meat and bones. And if true, these things would be pretty bad for Candace. So is all of this wrong? Is it wrong to do it this way, to file a complaint with all this extra stuff? No, I mean, is it shady? Not really. It's more like throwing like a sly elbow if you're playing street ball, you know, like you just kind of elbow the guy. On a higher level, it's actually pretty smart. The lawyers behind this knew that suing in the US would make a headline for its unusual tactic. And they knew that that headline would give them the spotlight for a period of time to let the Macrons say their piece without having to say a word themselves. No interviews, no sworn statements, no tweets, nothing, all right? They just told their story through the lawyer's writing. It's just a way to tell their version of it when the world is watching. But what did it cost? Well, there's no more bluffing now. You can't just laugh it off and say, oh, she's weird. You're saying you're gonna prove that she's lying. So now they have to prove in court that Brigitte was in fact a biological woman her whole life. Because if they settle the case, people are gonna wonder, why did they launch this lawsuit and then back off? It's really easy to prove that she's a woman. You could just do the blood test. And if you don't, well, they're gonna wonder. People are gonna wonder, all right? Cases like this usually settle, but both sides here might actually take it all the way to the mat. Candace said she'll bet her whole career on this, and the Macrons somehow care enough about this to sue, but they don't care about the whole I courted my student when he was still in puberty thing. Weird to me. Anyways, if you wanna know how Candace would win this lawsuit, click this video right here. And if you wanna know how Candace is gonna lose this lawsuit, click this video here instead. Go ahead, I'll wait.